supplementing your diet with super greens such as spirulina, chlorella, barley grass, wheatgrass is awesome. It will alkalize your blood, give you a boost of energy, and has many health benefits. The only problem is, it's not very palatable. In fact, when I took the lid off this a moment ago, everyone around me goes, "Oh, that stinks. It smells like something that the cat would like to eat." Well, I mean, I guess spirulina is an algae harvested off the ocean. So what are we going to do? I'm going to disguise this flavor in a chocolate. But it's not going to ruin the chocolate because then I'm going to mask the flavor of that with mint essential oils. Let's get started. The first thing I need to do is to melt cacao butter. I would like about 1 cup. So I've just boiled the kettle. I'm shaving off my cacao butter so that it will melt more quickly. So if you were going to make regular commercial chocolate, it would have cacao butter and then some kind of milk solids and sugar. So that's going into here. If you put the cacao butter into a metal bowl, it's going to melt much quicker. Now, I've been asked before, why don't I just use the microwave? Well, then it's not raw. So treat your ingredients with respect. If you've paid good money for cacao butter, and that is a little bit pricey, that ingredient, then you might as well reap the benefits of its raw status. Okay, so while that's melting, I'll just measure out the other ingredients. I'm going to have 3/4 cup of rice malt syrup, and I'll talk later about my sugar alternatives and how rice malt syrup doesn't set you up on that addictive cycle that high fructose corn syrup would. 1 cup of cacao powder. Now, I've noticed that there are different strengths with the cacao. You could use cocoa powder, which is just roasted, but the raw is higher in antioxidants. And just remember that cacao is a stimulant. So this is perfect because you're going to have a double pick-me-up. You don't need coffee if you include things like this in your diet. So this was the first pick-me-up and this is the second. Chocolate does have caffeine in it, so that's something to consider, especially if you're giving it to kids. If you're giving a piece of dark chocolate to your kids before bed and wondering why they're bouncing off the walls and suddenly want wrestling instead of bedtime cuddles, that's probably why. How do I know this? Experience. Okay, let's check out this cacao butter. I'm going to garnish with mint, some beautiful fresh mint sprigs from my garden. And they're just really nice to press in. Now, you could make these as beautiful little individual chocolate molds and use an ice cube tray. I'm going to spread it out on a big baking tray and then cut it into slices. So they'll be like chocolate mint thins. That's pretty much dissolved. There's that one remaining speck of cacao butter. All right, I'm just going to double check that I've got 1 cup. Should be about 250 grams. Always find it easier to melt. Ordinarily, I'd melt it in that jug, but it actually just takes a little bit longer because that's less heat sensitive. Metal's a better conductor of the heat, so therefore it melts better. Yep. 250 mils, 1 cup. Beautiful. Just going to mix everything in here. One cup of cacao powder. Mix that up. 3/4 cup of rice malt syrup. Now for our superfood. Because there were protests about it being a little bit too stinky, and I don't normally use that brand, I usually use a different brand. I really like the Ormus Super Greens, which is sweetened with stevia. So because this is different to what I normally use, I'm just going to add 1 spoon and our peppermint and taste, because we can always add more later on. And this is going to make a chewy chocolate. So the consistency of the rice malt syrup means that it won't actually set completely hard like a block chocolate. I've got other recipes for that, but I want this chewy, minty goodness. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think it could take a little more powder. I think I can sneak some more in. I don't mean to be deceptive, but this is a great way to sneak more good green stuff into your family's diet. And the beauty about dark chocolate is that when you have a chocolate craving, this will satisfy you, but you won't be left wanting to eat the whole block, as is the case with me. You give me a block of just regular Cadbury Dairy Milk chocolate, I'm done for. And after that, I have food guilt. And what I mean by food guilt, it's that feeling of when you're like, oh man, I wish I hadn't eaten that. And no one likes food remorse. We're done. I'm just gonna have a taste of this end, no double dipping. That was the first time. A couple of more drops of peppermint oil, or 10. And then I think we're ready to pour that on our tray. Have you ever heard of a chocolate meditation? Where you get a little piece of chocolate, you put it in your mouth, you close your eyes, and you just contemplate the taste, the texture, as the flavor floods your taste buds. Single pointed concentration. Chocolate meditation, try it with this. So the difference between this chocolate and a regular dark chocolate is this has no milk solids. So it's vegan. It doesn't have sugar, it has a low fructose rice malt syrup. And it's got no preservatives. You don't need to preserve this. If you think you're not going to eat this within a week or a few months, then just stick it in the freezer. I always like to have a batch of chocolate anyway in the freezer. People come to my house and they're like, what kind of desserts have you got? And I'm like, yeah, there you go, in the freezer. And they just go and help themselves. Everybody's happy. I get to keep making and reinventing, and they get to keep eating. Rice malt has a negligible amount of fructose. That's why I've chosen it as my preferred sweetener in this recipe. Just to take this to the next level, I'm going to push in some mint leaves. I just love desserts. Desserts is where raw food all started for me. To be able to make treats and know that you're not going to be doing your body any damage is honestly a blessing. And this is going to go in the fridge. Oh, he's the wrong way. That's all right. Fridge or freezer. I'd say probably about half an hour that will be ready to slice up. The gooey chocolate is now set into a firm yet thin, crispy wafer almost. I'm just going to slice it up. You could use a knife, but I can use this since I've got one. I think it's just a pie lifter. It's chewy, the chocolate. So it provides a little bit of resistance as I push in. Oh, that bit broke off. Now I challenge anyone, if they can actually taste that stinky green powder, It's vanished. It's completely disguised by the beautiful pure mint essence. Let's plate this up. How do you use this? Like a medicine. If I had some challenging physical activity coming up, such as tonight, I'm going to go and teach a hot yoga class, and I've been working all day. I'm happily going to munch on some of this to give me a little bit of a boost. Whatever you don't use, whatever your friends don't steal from you, store in the freezer or the fridge. So beautiful thin mint chocolate. Delicious. The final touch is to sprinkle a crackle of salt, which really seems to enhance the sweetness.